So last week, we heard about Krishna's son, Samba, kidnapping Lakshmana. We heard that Samba was the pet child of Krishna's second wife, Jambavati, and he was named Samba because he was always close to his mother. And Lakshmana was the daughter of Duryodhana from the Kuru dynasty. So when Samba kidnapped Lakshmana, there was a fight, and the elder members, is there something wrong? Everything okay? I thought I heard something. Okay. So the elder members of the Kuru dynasty wanted to teach Samba a lesson, and also they wanted to see his prowess as a fighter. So they captured Samba, and then Narada Muni went to Dwaraka and told everybody there the story of what had happened to Samba. And the Yadu dynasty was prepared to fight the Kuru dynasty. But Lord Balaram wanted to be a peacemaker, a well-wisher, because he was very much liked by the Kauravas and the Yadus. So Balaram went to Hastinapur and tried to make a peace arrangement, basically telling the Kurus that they should return Samba along with his newly wife Lakshmana. And at first the Kauravas insulted Lord Balaram. They were trying to say that the Yadus were only capable of carrying on the governing of Dwarka only by the permission of the Kurus. So they said, you have the audacity to instruct us? That's like the shoes wanting to replace the head. So when Balaram heard their insulting language, he became very furious and angry. And he decided that he would divide Hastinapur into so many different sections with his plow. So when the Kauravas saw that Balaram was determined, then they came, they offered prayers, they begged forgiveness, and they released Samba and his wife Lakshmana. So now, today, we're going back to Dwaraka. When the great sage Narada heard that Lord Krishna had married 16,000 wives after Krishna had killed the demon Naraka Asura, who is sometimes known as Bauma Asura, Narada was astonished that Lord Krishna had expanded himself into 16,000 forms and married these wives simultaneously in different palaces. Being inquisitive as to how Krishna was managing his household affairs with so many wives, Narada, desiring to see more pastimes, set out to visit Krishna's different homes. When Narada arrived at Dwaraka, Narada saw gardens and parks full of various flowers of different colors and orchards overloaded with a variety of fruits. Beautiful birds were chirping, and peacocks crowed delightfully. There were ponds full of blue and red lotus flowers, and some of these tanks were filled with varieties of lilies. The lakes were full of nice swans and cranes, and the voices of these birds resounded everywhere. In the city, there were as many as 900,000 great palaces built of first-class marble, with gates and doors made of silver. The pillars of the houses and palaces were bedecked with jewels, such as touchstone, sapphires, and emeralds, and the floors gave off a beautiful luster. The highways, lanes, streets, crossings, and marketplaces were all beautifully decorated. The whole city was full of residential homes, assembly houses, and temples, all of different architectural beauty. All of this made Dwaraka a glowing city. The big avenues, crossings, lanes, and streets, and also the thresholds of every residential house were very clean. On both sides of every path there were bushes, and at regular intervals there were large trees that shaded the avenues so that the sunshine would not bother the passers-by. In this greatly beautiful city of Dwaraka, Lord Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, had many residential quarters. The great kings and princes of the world used to visit these palaces just to worship Krishna. The architectural plans were made personally by Vishvakarma, the engineer of the demigods. And in the construction of the palaces, Vishvakarma exhibited all of his talents and ingenuity. These residential quarters numbered more than 16,000, and a different queen of Lord Krishna resided in each of them. Thus, Vishvakarma manifests the expertise of the Supreme Lord, and thus Vishvakarma was able to build such exquisite palaces. So the great sage Narada entered one of these houses and saw that the pillars were made of coral and the ceilings were bedecked with jewels. The walls, as well as the arches between the pillars, glowed from the decorations of different kinds of sapphires. Throughout the palace were many canopies made by Vishvakarma that were decorated with strings of pearls. The chairs and other furniture were made of ivory and bedecked with gold and diamonds, and jeweled lamps dissipated the darkness within the palace. There was so much incense and fragrant gum burning that the scented fumes were coming out of the windows. The peacocks sitting on the steps then became illusioned by the plumes, mistaking them for clouds, and thus they began dancing jubilantly. Also, there were many maidservants, all of whom were decorated with gold necklaces, bangles, and beautiful saris. There were also many male servants, nicely dressed in cloaks and turbans, and they also wore jeweled earrings. Beautiful as they were, the servants were all engaged in different household duties. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. This section is called Narada Praises Lord Krishna. Narada Muni saw that Lord Krishna was sitting with Rukmini Devi, the mistress of that particular palace, who was holding the handle of a chamara whisk fan. Even though there are many thousands of maidservants, equally beautiful in qualified, and all of the same age, still Rukmini Devi personally was engaged in fanning Lord Krishna. Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, worshipped even by Narada. And yet, as soon as Krishna saw Narada enter his palace, Krishna got down immediately from Rukmini's bedstead and stood up to honor Narada. Lord Krishna is the teacher of the whole world, and in order to instruct everyone how to respect a saintly person like Narada Muni, Krishna bowed down, touching his helmet to the ground. Not only did Krishna bow down, but Krishna also touched the feet of Narada and with folded hands requested Narada to sit on Krishna's own chair. Lord Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, worshipped by all devotees. Krishna is the most worshipped spiritual master of everyone. The Ganges water, which emanates from Krishna's feet, sanctifies the three worlds. All qualified brahmanas worship Krishna, and therefore Krishna is called Brahmanya Deva. The word Brahmanya means one who fully possesses the Brahmanical qualifications, which are said to be as follows: Satyam, truthfulness; self-control, Shama; purity, Saucham; mastery of the senses, Dhamma; simplicity, Arjavam; full knowledge by practical application, Vijnanam; and engagement in devotional service, Astikyam. Those are the qualities which are mentioned in Bhagavad Gita by Krishna. Lord Krishna personally and naturally possesses all these qualities, and Krishna is worshipped by persons who themselves possess such qualities. There are thousands and millions of names of Lord Krishna, and there is the Vishnu Sahasranam, and all of them are given to Krishna because of Krishna's transcendental qualities. Lord Krishna, while living in Dwaraka, enjoyed the pastimes of a perfect human being. Therefore, when Krishna washed the feet of the sage Narada and took the water on his head, Narada did not object, knowing well that Krishna did so only to teach everyone how to respect saintly persons. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, who is the original Narayana and who is the eternal friend of all living entities, thus worshiped the sage Narada according to Vedic regulative principles. Welcoming Narada with sweet nectarian words, Krishna addressed Narada as Bhagavan, or one who is self-sufficient, possessing all knowledge, renunciation, strength, fame, beauty, and other similar opulences. So Krishna, in particular, asked Narada, "Oh, what can I do in your service?" Narada then replied, "My dear Lord, this kind of behavior by your lordship is not at all astonishing, for you are the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and you are the master of all species of living entities. You are the supreme friend of all living entities, but at the same time, you are the supreme chastiser of the miscreants and the envious. I know that you have descended on this earth for the proper maintenance of the whole universe. Your appearance, therefore, is not forced by any other agency, for by your sweet will only you agree to appear and disappear. Actually, it is my great fortune that I have been able to see your lotus feet today. Anyone who becomes attached to your lotus feet is elevated to the supreme position of neutrality and is thus uncontaminated by the material modes of nature. My Lord, you are Ananta, unlimited, as there is no limit to your opulences. And great demigods, such as Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva, are always busy placing you within their hearts and meditating upon you. The conditioned souls who have now been put into the blind well of material existence can get out of this eternal captivity only by accepting your lotus feet. Thus, you are the only shelter of all conditioned souls. My dear Lord, you have very kindly asked me what you can do for me. And in answer to this, I simply request that I may not forget your lotus feet at any time. I do not care where I may be, but I pray that I constantly be allowed to remember your lotus feet. So for me, this last statement of Narada, to me, this is the perfect prayer. This is the kind of prayer that I would like to offer Krishna on my deathbed. Notice what Narada says. I simply request that I may not forget your lotus feet at any time. So Narada, Prabhupada says, is perhaps the most important guru and acharya in our Gaudiya Vaishnava lineage, because Narada is known as the Bhakti Shakti Avatar. He is the incarnation, the empowered incarnation of Krishna to promote, to preach, and to teach Bhakti Yoga. Narada has composed one book, Narada Bhakti Sutras. So when it comes to the science of bhakti, Narada is the authority. So this prayer is perfect. I do not care where I may be, but I pray that I constantly be allowed to remember your lotus feet. Perfect, perfect, perfect. Prabhupada continues. By asking this benediction from Lord Krishna, sage Narada showed the ideal prayer of all pure devotees. For a pure devotee never asks for any kind of material or spiritual benediction from the Lord. One's only prayer is that he or she may not forget the lotus feet of the Lord in any condition of life. A pure devotee does not care whether one is put into heaven or put into hell. He or she is satisfied anywhere, provided one can constantly remember the lotus feet of the Lord. This reminds me also, in my 40 years of preaching, many times I have been asked by my various Shiksha disciples over the years, should I do this decision? Should I go here? Should I do this service? Should I take this job? And I always advise my students, whenever you make a decision, you have to ask yourself, this decision that I'm taking, how will it affect my spiritual life? How will it improve or decrease my hearing and chanting? How will this decision affect my spiritual progress? That is how you should make all decisions. Because Prabhupada writes, material well-being automatically follows spiritual well-being. Prabhupada continues. Lord Chaitanya also taught this same process of prayer in his Shiksha Ashtaka verses, in which Lord Chaitanya states, Naddanang, Najjanang, Nasundaring, Kavitang va Jagadisha Kamaye, Mama Janmani Janmanishware, Bhavatad Bhaktir Ahoituki Twai. All Lord Chaitanya wanted was devotional service, birth after birth. He did not even ask for moksha or liberation. A pure devotee does not even want to stop the repetition of birth and death. To a pure devotee, it does not matter whether one has to take birth again in the various species of life. One's only ambition is that one not forget the lotus feet of the Lord in any condition of life. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So this one is entitled, Narada Visits the Other Homes of Lord Krishna. After departing from the palace of Rukmini, Narada Ji wanted to see further activities of Lord Krishna's internal potency, Yoga Maya. Thus, Narada entered the palace of another queen. There, Narada saw Lord Krishna engaged in playing chess with his dear wife and Uddhava. Immediately, Krishna got up from his seat and invited Narada Muni to sit on his personal asana. Krishna again worshipped Narada with as much paraphernalia for reception as Krishna had in the palace of Rukmini. After worshipping Narada properly, Lord Krishna acted as if he did not know what had happened in the palace of Rukmini. Krishna therefore told Narada, "My dear sage, when your holiness comes here, you are full in yourself. Although we are householders and we are always in need, you, on the other hand, do not require anyone's help, for you are self-satisfied. Under the circumstances, what reception can we offer you, and what can we possibly give you? Yet, since your holiness is a Brahmana, it is our duty to offer you something as far as possible. Therefore, I beg you to please order me. What can I do for you?" Narada Ji knew everything about the pastimes of Krishna. So without further discussion, Narada simply left the palace silently in great astonishment over Krishna's activities. Narada then entered another palace. This time, Naradaji saw that Lord Krishna was engaged as an affectionate father, petting his small children. From there, Narada entered another palace and saw Lord Krishna preparing to take bath. In this way, Saint Narada entered each and every one of the 16,108 residential palaces of the queens of Lord Krishna, and in each of them, Narada found Krishna engaged in different ways. In one place, Narada found Krishna offering oblations to the sacrificial fire and performing the ritualistic ceremonies of the Vedas, which are enjoined for all householders. In another palace, Narada found Krishna performing the Panchayagya Sacrifice, which is compulsory for a householder. This yagya is also known as Panchashuna. The 5 Maha Yagyas, or great sacrifices, are defined as follows. Pato homas chatihinam, sarpaya tarpanang bali. Reciting the Vedas, offering oblations into the sacrificial fire, waiting on guests, making offerings to the forefathers, and offering a share of one's food to living entities in general are the 5 Mahayagyas. Because, knowingly or unknowingly, everyone, especially the householder, commits 5 kinds of sinful activities. And when we receive water from a water pitcher, we kill many germs that are in it. Similarly, when we use a grinding machine or eat food, we also kill many germs. When sweeping a floor or igniting a fire, we kill many germs. And when we walk on the street, we kill many ants and other insects. So either consciously or unconsciously, in all of our different activities, we are killing. Therefore, it is incumbent and it is imposed as an obligation upon every householder to perform the Panchashuna sacrifice in order to rid him or herself of the reactions to such sinful activities. So,